Come here. You? Same, yeah, same stuff, different files. Good.
Madam President, at this time, everyone from the waiting room has been brought into the virtual meeting.
All right, it's 6:01. If we can call the meeting of the City of Tonawanda Council to order, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Newman is excused. Cameron
Here.
Rautenstrau,
Here.
Milo,
Here.
Cook.
Here. Right, let's go through our agenda. Minutes.
I can take them.
Ms. Cameron. All right, next is the award of the Young Street Corridor Improvement, change order number 2.
I'll take that, Madam President.
Mr. Ronstra. Any questions on it? All right, next is the desire to add additional overnight parking spots in the West Seymour Street lot. Questions, comments? Who wants it?
I'd like that one again too.
Mr. Ronstra? Okay, policy, update of the policy manual to include the fund balance policy. Want to do council on this?
Sure.
Questions on it, comments? Mr. Reese, do you have anything additional to add to it?
Madam President, 1 second. Hey, Bill. They had a question on the fund balance policy.
I'll be right
Bill's coming into the council chambers.
Okay. All right, okay. All right. Next is resolution 5. The recommendation by our city assessor, Dave Morano, to sign an agreement with GAR Associates for the reassessment project, term beginning January 1st, 2022 through June 2023. Questions on that? Comments? Okay. Mr. Reese, I just asked if you had any questions on the fund balance or anything to add. No specific
No,
questions.
it's something that our auditors have asked, and when we work with the office of the state controller and such, they always ask, do we have a fund balance policy? It's a very boilerplate fund balance policy. It will give us, one, it will answer their question in the affirmative, and then it will also give us a chance to secure funds and hold it for the intended budgeted purpose in the following years without having to go into general.
Right.
It would actually be allocated fund.
Perfect. Do we have executive?
I don't have exactly.
Executive? Okay.
Did
No.
somebody take number 5?
Mr. Rounstrau. All right, no executive. All right, let's go around the room. John, anything?
Nope, been pretty quiet.
Sean?
Pretty quiet. I just did want to comment on the fact that I attended the Civil Service Commission meeting last week. One, I'm thankful it was, I was able to attend it. I think they're changing the hours to after work hours, so I'll be able to make more of them. But I just wanted to welcome Monica Lulanich as a new member of the commission. You know, with her experience, she's going to be a great asset and very valuable to the Civil Service Commission. And it was great to see her and great to work with her. And also say that Janice Bodie will be missed as well. That was it.
Dave,
Nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
Mayor?
I have nothing.
Mr. Attorney, can you just come forward, please?
Yes, Madam President.
So we received the interoffice memorandum regarding the local impact of the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. We added it to the agenda as a communication. Was there any additional feedback outside of this that you wanted to add?
No, I think the memo is pretty straightforward. I mean, whether or not the city opts in or opts out, I should say, they're automatically opted in. It just allows dispensaries and allows the city to benefit from any tax revenue that may be generated from any such located within the city of Tonawanda. There's no benefit to the city to opt out because it has nothing to do with whether or not marijuana is going to be allowed, just whether or not it's going to be sold at a retail level in our city.
Right.
So they could do it in North Tonawanda, they could do it in the plaza in the town of Tonawanda and come to our park and our hub and smoke it. We wouldn't receive any benefit from it.
Did everybody have a chance to review the memo?
Yeah.
Questions, feedback, discussion?
You have a couple questions. One, there's no guidelines set up really from the state. They just kind of started with that board and getting regulations together. So there's no specific guidelines.
Not at this time, they're still working on that. But in addition, we already have zoning laws which prohibit where an establishment could be. They can't be within 500 feet of a school. There's also regulations regarding smoking, which would apply to the smoking of cannabis. So there's other regulations that will also govern these type of establishments besides whatever the state promulgates. And get around to doing it shortly.
Gotcha. And I guess just in regards to that too, when you talk about smoking laws, I mean, it's currently the law that you can't smoke indoors anywhere. There was the exception of a few cigar bars, but I've got to imagine circling back to that and allowing a smoking lounge or a smoking place has got to be pretty difficult, especially given the laws that are in place in New York State. Is there any indication of how they're going to do that or how they allow that? Or are we still up in the air? And
Again, they haven't set forth any regulations yet, but the smoking regulations are going to apply to the smoking of cannabis.
gotcha. Cool. Thank you.
So in summary, we're automatically covered by this legislation. And we would receive the revenue from the sales from the dispensaries.
Correct. It was passed indicating that everybody was opting in. If you wanted not to be in, then you'd have to opt out and take an actual procedural step to do so. In the law, any revenue generated from dispensaries in your municipality.
Any other questions on this? Mr. Clerk, if you could just poll the council that it's, our desire to remain in and we're not going to opt out at this juncture.
Okay, in this matter, Cameron Diner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Hi.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye.
To add to that discussion.
Yep.
Would it be too premature at this point to, without anything in place and not knowing the revenue that's coming in, but to even start talking about designating a certain amount of that percentage of the revenue and what it could be dedicated for, earmarked for? I think I've mentioned before in posts and talking to people that regardless of it's in our city or not in our city, we're still gonna have to deal with the consequences of people being irresponsible about it or inconsiderate about it. It'd be a good idea to start thinking now about, can some of this be used towards education and outreach, more patrol, more enforcement for smoking laws and whatnot. Is it too early to start talking about that and maybe kind of setting up percentages and kind of codify some of that so we're prepared for it?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great idea. I don't know how you can project what the revenue would be at this point, and I defer to the city treasurer on that, but I don't know if any projections have even come through.
Gotcha.
Mayor, have you?
We would get 7% of there.
Right.
There'll be a tax associated with every sale, and the city would receive 7% of that. The few individuals that I've met with figure one dispensary would generate about $100,000 to $125,000 in additional revenue based on what their assumption is of how busy this dispensary would be and the amount of taxes that they. So. But again, I think that's just them spitballing.
Right.
Wouldn't really know until the facility opened up, but.
Right. Okay. Great. All right. Chief McNulty, if you want to come forward. All right. Now, at 6:15, we scheduled to meet with Brian Bronner from Twin City Ambulance. I don't think he's here yet. Oh, he may be. Brian, how are you?
I'm welcome, sorry.
Good, good. I just want to make sure, so we are Zooming our council meeting as well. So I just want to make sure that our city clerk can hear you and we can capture your comments on the record for our residents who are joining us via Zoom. So if you just want to get closer to the microphone. I'll introduce myself. So my name's Jenna Cook. I'm the council president. To my right is Councilwoman Dawn Cameradiner. To my left is Mayor Rick Davis, Councilman Sean Rautenstrau, Councilman Steve Milam. And sitting over here is Councilman-elect Carl Nocera and Mayor-elect John White. So thank you for joining us. The purpose of the discussion today is to talk about the proposal that you submitted. It looks like August 31st of 2020.
I'll take your word for the dates. I don't have dates on.
Okay. For ambulance transportation services. So first, I'll open it up to you, for some opening remarks, and we'll go from there.
I don't really have any opening remarks. I'm prepared to answer questions from your council or leadership. It's not clear on what the questions are at this point. I know that you have before you the proposal that we submitted in response to a request for proposal issued by the city. And our response basically was outlining the points that we were able to meet and work with. Subsequent to that response, we met several times with fire department leadership, some of the council members, some who maybe outgoing as well. Had several conversations about process, worked through drafting the document that will serve as a contract to establish the response partnership, the program going forward, and we're here.
Okay. So by way of an explanation, so I'm looking at this proposal dated August 31st, 2020, that was received by our city clerk on April 9th of 2021. This proposal from August 31st of 2020, to your recollection, has not changed, correct?
I would have to see the document to talk about.
Okay. Do you mind if yeah, come on. I just want to make sure that we have the most current and
So yes, this is the proposal we submitted in response to the request for proposal. This is not the agreement that we had. You had at least one document related to that agreement that was produced subsequent to this proposal.
okay. All right, awesome. Okay, so I know the council does have some questions. Help me to understand what is the problem with the current arrangement that we have and why is this necessary?
So I'm not sure there's a problem with the current arrangement that we have. I think the question is better directed to the fire department and to ourselves why the request for proposal was issued. I think because as the department, as a response agency, as a city, we're looking to improve and enhance the services that are offered to the residents, better utilize the advanced life support providers that you already have in your employ that are responding to calls on a daily basis, that are residents on a daily basis. Building an arrangement where not only would they see care through from first contact of first response through delivery to the hospital, but that in the process, they would also be able to obtain some reimbursement for the care for that. Looking at you saying, is that correct? That is correct. So that was the basis for the request for proposal. Our response kind of stands itself.
Do you know what other municipalities you have an agreement with? Similar to this?
Similar to that, I would say that that agreement is similar to the town of Tonawanda agreement, but again, there are some unique elements. Our goal is to basically work through every agreement so that it's beneficial to the unique aspects of the municipality, of the departments with whom we're responding, of the patients that would like to encounter. So everything has its own degree of nuance. So the services.
Other question?
No, I think a little more prepared and might add on to that stuff.
Okay, so we have a figure that's been submitted from you to us. A monetary figure for how much remuneration there would be or repayment there would be from our guys riding this way, right? Taking on this extra duty.
Just want to be clear, if you're referencing the expected value for transport.
Yes.
If there's some other figure.
No, the
Okay.
number that was given to
Yes.
us. And is that still a current number or has that gone
I
up?
believe the number you have before you is current as of data available to us through, please reference it, October of 2020.
I believe that's when it was, yeah.
Material.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have data now that spans through at least September of 2021, maybe October. The reason it doesn't come current as of today is because there's a period of time from service to closing an account for reimbursement. So we need to let that time lapse so we understand what will actually be reimbursed from insurers before we can make the result proposal. There is some additional data available. What you're looking at, the data that you have before you was compiled and modeled based on, again, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 full years and I believe 10 additional months of experience providing service. So we're looking at give or take 58 months worth of data in front of you. We can add the additional information we have, get 68 months. It's going to be pretty close, unless there's a substantial change in the payer mix in the community, which would ultimately drive up or down the number. But the payer mix has not substantially changed. Reimbursements from all insurers has not substantially changed. So the number is going to be.
So in a typical, I don't know, fiscal year, do you typically receive 100% of the money that you have billed out for services such as this?
So absolutely not. And ambulance service is a sort of nuanced billing arrangement.
Sure.
In approximately 70% of the cases that, let me take it actually back a step. We only bill for transports and for a very, very, very small number of cases where we provide advanced life support care and the patient ultimately declines transport to the hospital. Those are a really small number. We're talking maybe 1,000% of the city. So we're billing only for transport. Transport occurs somewhere between 65 and 70% of the time. So out of all of our responses, we have the opportunity to bill 65 or 70% of the responses that for the 65 or 70% that we bill, about 70% of that is fixed price. It's established by Medicare or Medicaid. And it fits to an ambulance fee schedule that basically specifies reimbursement based on the level of care provided. So it's basic life support, advanced life support, and the rest of the model for you. For the remaining 30%, you can see the payer mix is broken down for your review. That includes private insurance, that includes workers' compensation, that includes no fault insurance, that includes uninsureds, and basically self-pays. That constitutes the remaining 30%. Collection there. So when you're asking about what percentage we should collect, I would estimate based on, and this is an estimation, I can get a final figure for you, but if we're talking about Medicare, Medicare reimburses relation to our billed amount somewhere in the 35 or 40% range. Medicaid, somewhere in the 10% range. Health insurance suppliers, that's where we're actually able to obtain some reimbursement. Again, ballpark 80%. So that's for the responsible party being an insurance provider of some kind, whether it's a government insurer or a private insurer. After that, it comes down to patient responsibilities, and patient responsibilities under the insurer, whether it's a co-insurance, a co-payment, or a high deductible plan, the amount that we collect there. The general estimate of collection for the city of Tonawanda, and it's estimated on the forms you have. I believe it works to be about 80% of the amount that we're actually owed. So forgetting the amount that we bill, the amount that we bill really doesn't have much of a relationship with the amount that we collect. So if we sent a bill for $1 million for ambulance transport, they'll agree ridiculous, right? But we never get paid that amount. So the payments are based on established figures. The government contract for the government. So about 80% of the amount that we're owed.
No. Oh,
I'm sorry, just based on that though, that reimbursement number that we're talking about, that's based on the actual collected. That's not based on
Correct.
the billing amount.
The expected value that we're talking about, that is already discounted the contractual allowables for Medicare and Medicaid. The nuanced and complex way that the health insurance companies are treating ambulance service and the revenues that are being generated there, individual responsibilities, workers' compensation, all of that, less the amount that we have been able to collect for the services rendered. All of that is taken out before that 70%. Only thing, I'm sorry, for that's approximately $70, 73 something. Am I close?
Yes.
Got it in front of me.
Yeah.
7322.
73.20. And that's the estimate. The only thing that's not accounted for in there is the third-party collection fee. So ultimately, the account has to be referred to third-party collections to obtain payment. That's not accounted for there. Typically, we get a very small amount of that. So in the agreement that we have negotiated and proposed at this point for review and resolution, if it goes to a third-party fee, because we're already getting less than the base rate plus the cost, there would be no remittance to consider the part for collections.
Brian, you mentioned there was an agreement. Has that agreement been signed? And
No, there's no agreement, and there is no operation under which there's any remittance to the city right now. We negotiated a now called a tentative agreement for understanding where it was. I believe, I don't know if it was submitted for review. I believe it was. So Assistant Chief Barber said it was submitted for review, so maybe you had a copy. The expected revenue, the sheet you see before you, was attached as Exhibit A, the last page of that tentative agreement. So somehow that got here. I don't know if it got here as just a sheet or if it got separated from the tentative agreement. So I don't know. I can't speak to that.
Mayor, do you have a copy of the agreement?
I do not. The only thing I've seen is that last sheet that everybody has.
Okay. Do you know who from the city has a copy of the agreement? Does anyone on the council? Yeah.
I say don't have.
I don't have a copy. I saw that.
Okay.
Did not have a copy.
I believe that agreement was sent to all of you last December.
Yep.
When we were getting, after we had reached a tentative agreement for us to pursue the vote. I believe at that time, Chief Stewart had sent a copy of tentative arrangement for your review.
I do remember getting it. I just don't have it on hand.
Because if you wouldn't have that last page, if you didn't get the rest of it.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, can you try to find that email from December?
Yes, I will research that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Pretty sure it's in December.
It was around that time.
And we believe it was from Chief Stewart.
Okay. Yeah, I can research that.
Thank you.
Just one question. Currently, we are working with Twin City for the transport service, for the services you provide without a contract between our city and you, and that's kind of all of the cities work with that. You still pick up people, you'll get dispatched, you'll pick up somebody in need, provide ALS support, BLS support, or EMT, whatever that's needed. Correct?
Yes.
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 Yeah, no, it's a statement and a question. I just wanted to verify that. So currently we are doing that. And like you said, this is more of an enhancing and providing additional service to our residents. But as it stands right now, and especially given the name Twin City Ambulance, I mean, there's not any risk of you leaving the area or losing the contract or not servicing the area anymore. I mean, you guys specifically are here to service city of Tonawanda, North Tonawanda, and the town. Right now, is that all of your coverage, or do you have more of an area?
No, that represents, in terms of literal land mass, maybe 25% of the areas that we primarily serve in terms of call volume. 25%.
So in the contract that we were all provided with for the RFP, I had a couple consideration questions that I just kind of want to throw by you. In the RFP draft, it mentions minimum levels of insurance. It's mentioned amounts of, it's just basic insurance, it looks like. Is that something that you will need to incur on your own, or is that just kind of boilerplate standard level of insurance for transporting folks?
I'm sorry, I'm not clear on the question, and if you have it in front of you and I can review it for a second, I'd be happy to.
I don't have the printed contract. Do you have it with you, Jenna?
Yes.
And I could take a stab at answering it. If-
The proposal? Yeah.
My concern is that you will have to incur more insurance for transporting our guys.
No,
I guess that's probably the best way to,
yeah, no, I don't believe that's the case at all. In terms of transporting your guys, there's a couple of things to consider. Number one, like riding in any vehicle, right? There's the insurance is going to cover the occupants of the vehicle. We already pay I want to say exorbitant, but I'll stick with significant amount of insurance.
the numbers were very high that were in this.
Yes. That's not in addition to anything else. And your firefighters, and paramedics already covered by workers' comp by the city for on-the-job related injuries would likely constitute, again, I will check for council. I believe you're self-insured, but check with council. I believe this would extend to workers' comp, and that would be the primary coverage in addition to the policy limits that we carry for passengers in our vehicle. And if you ever encountered an accident, when insurance companies get involved, who's paying what, I don't know, but I, with a high degree of confidence, say everybody is reasonably covered and insured, and there's no additional cost to us for supplying that. It's also important to note that even absent the contract, firefighters and paramedics in the city of Tonawanda are already riding on our ambulances when there are high acuity patients that require additional care and those sorts of interactions. So that's already happening. They're already insured by you, by us.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, and additionally on our end, will there be any additional insurance required?
We'd have to talk to our insurance carrier.
I've spoken to our insurance carrier.
Oh, you have?
That was some of the first things we straightened out. It's covered under our current insurance. It's no different than transporting or servicing patients as an EMT. So they're, as long as we're not running the ambulance, that would be a different class of insurance. We're covered, all of our employees are covered without an additional cost.
So no additional liability.
Question, this might be for the fire department more than you, but I don't remember the answer before. At what point is TC or Twin Cities dispatched in the process? So if I call 911 for one of my kids, are you dispatched at the point of me calling 911, or when the paramedic or the EMT gets there and determine? It is simultaneous.
So the fire department's radio dispatch, we hear that radio dispatch and we send our ambulance.
And that's regardless of it's ALS, BLS, a skin knee, a kid with a.
When radio literally the radio call would be,
It just came up, it just came home.
Gotcha.
It's being phone, but yeah, it's.
Town 106 and Twin City Ambulance, that's how it would be dispatched.
Mhm.
That's how we respond, so there's no.
The only difference is that Twin City receives a direct call.
Gotcha.
Then they call us.
So the determination for whether or not the call is an ALS call or a BLS call, is that made by,
It's made by the paramedic on scene. We
From our
do
fire
have
department.
EMT In the city.
Mhm.
That would be something that the city would have to request with dispatchers. There'd be a certification they would have to get and a little bit more questions that they would have to ask at the time of the call to categorize a dispatch category.
and it would also be at that point where you determine if we have enough manpower to handle an ALS call, or if you're gonna send somebody.
It's gonna be on the scene.
Mhm.
A lot of times, the information you get on a phone call does not match with what you find on scene. And it can go either way. Sometimes we'll get an unconscious, unresponsive. Just happens to be somebody who had a little too much celebration the night before, or it's just a welfare check. And then sometimes we'll get a welfare check that turns out to be a cardiac arrest. It's gonna be a lot more involved. So that can go either way, and that's gonna be something we're not gonna know until we're not seeing.
Right, and obviously my only concern is when we talk about that level of service is if we have guys on hand or if they're sending somebody that's able to deal with the situation, that we make sure we have somebody that's capable of handling the situation properly.
And the tentative agreement that you have does take that into account.
Okay.
Most of our shifts currently have 2 paramedics at any one time. If we get to a point where we don't have a paramedic responding, and this agreement mentions it as well, Twin Cities upgraded to the primary medics for that call. That agreement's in place now, and that won't change if we move forward with this call.
About how many medics do you have on staff?
13 right now, with 1 in school and 1 having a test, so.
So roughly half, a little more than half of your.
Correct.
So I just want to float this by the rest of the council. Thank you for the information and thank you guys for your hard work on this. Obviously, this has been what I typically call the speed of government that gets in the way of any progress. But this is one of those decisions that we have to look at because it's going to be the taxpayers that are left holding the bill if the reimbursement doesn't cover the outlay in man hours. But I got to thinking today that this is a service for our residents. And just like the postal service that does not typically produce massive profits, they actually operate in the red, but they are a service for the people. I'm looking at this as a service for the residents, where it actually could, or it would, increase the, that did not help my self-esteem. It would actually increase this level of service that the residents get, but obviously there's going to be a cost that's associated. So my question is, would the residents be willing to foot that bill for this? Because some of the math that I've done, when I look at this, is you guys, with the data that I have, there was approximately 507 ALS calls last year with an average hourly pay of about $32 per member. So 507 times that hourly number comes out to about $16,000 in what it hourly costs for our folks to ride in the ambulance. Now, that's just out the door. We take that number of calls times the remuneration rate, and we actually profit a good amount. But I learned about the 80% reimbursement rate, which kind of drops that a little bit. So we're looking at about a going from about 21,000 profit to about 16,000 profit over that time. Now, that's with one person. My question is, how many times will a person be sitting at the emergency room waiting to be picked up and the department have to backfill for that person who's not here? Because once that happens, those profits go steadily down from 20,000 to 4,000 for two guys, and then 3 hours, it's negative 11,000.
Right.
So-
First off, I'd like to correct this right away. This is not intended as a profit-making mechanism for the city.
Correct.
So.
And that's what I said,
If
it's-
anybody has any ideas that we are going to make a profit off of this, put that to bed right now.
Correct, that's what I said. It's a
This-
service that's gonna cost money.
This is a revenue recovery. And as far as the expenses go, I'm looking at it a little bit different. If it happens to be a time where we don't have a call, is that guy gonna be sent home? You're looking at a cost for a guy doing work that we're already paying.
Right.
So I can't count that as an expenditure when he's on the clock for 10 hours a day anyway.
Okay.
I mean, if this was overtime or after a shift, that's a little bit of a difference.
Well, that's where I
It's
was,
going to occur. As we've discussed before, the intention isn't that we're going to be calling people in constantly to cover. Twin City is still going to have 2 providers on the ambulance because they're required by insurance to have that. Our medical, the hospital, and the way the provision is now, a reasonable amount of time we're allowed to make that transfer to hospital. And then depending on which facility it is, we may be able to pick that guy and have him back up in the city very short. So I can't give you numbers until we actually do this for a little while on how many times we've run into a delay in getting our guys picked.
and just kind of on that same topic, with the hospitals being what they are now, have you guys run into that? Like extra, I mean, being diverted, being,
Brian has dealt with that a lot more. The transports we've encountered for serious ALS calls, calls where we administer narcotics. Generally, the turnaround time has been very good, but most of those transports are to Graf and Kenmore. And our command car is going over and picking that guy up, and we're generally back in the city. in 10 minutes. Brian can speak more on how many crews he's had delayed in hospitals for, 45 minutes or 3 hours or whatever, but
sure,
there are provisions in there to limit how many providers are tied up in here. And if you'd like him to expand on that.
no, I just, and I'm sorry if I gave the wrong impression, because I think this is something that could work.
But
But
I just wanted to clarify that, if the profit thing was anywhere in the mix, that is not part of the discussion.
no, and
It's just not gonna happen.
because it can't happen, right? There's just not enough meat on the bone.
I mean, now, if you want to get us an ambulance and start contracting with NT and Grand Island and grow a business, that potentially is there, but then we're fighting this. We
Sure,
don't
for
wanna
sure,
do that.
for sure. I just wanted to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that this is not going to be cheap to start out. And it's, we may break even, we may not, but it is it's an additional thing that could happen.
And I still, there is no startup cost for us. We're not buying any additional equipment. We're not sending any of our members to additional training. It's stuff we already purchase and use. It's generally part of our budget. There's no upfront cost to us doing this. It's part of our daily now. It's just looking at trying to recoup some of our costs now in a partnership with Twin City to grow and improve the service we provide.
Okay. Thank you.
What is the timeframe on reimbursement for? The timeframe on reimbursement?
So it depends. Our average timeframe on reimbursement to you or timeframe on completed calculations?
I guess mostly concerned to us.
Okay, so
How long it's gonna be
our
from-
proposal is basically a shared risk arrangement where we bear all the risk of not just billing, but all the risk of collection or not collection. So ultimately, if we don't bring on account, costs you nothing, right? We've taken and sustained all of those losses. that the city's paid for. Again, accounted for in a shared risk arrangement. In terms of when you would likely expect payment, I would again have to refer to the tentative agreement, but I believe that the period required, there's some strange things with Medicare, for example, where they don't pay in like January, February, that they catch everything up in a hurry. So it's just a couple little strange things. But on average, it takes us about 71 days from the day we provide service until we first get paid. So when we get paid, in that 71 days, I believe we've committed to, again, in the subsequent month. So if we get payment on the account in January, you'll get payment for that account in February. We'll keep that going online. It just depends when we get paid.
Yeah, no, I just kind of want to have a gauge of when you have an idea of how this is affecting the budget. So we'd have to plan out to budget for this 70 days out before we have a gauge on what we're looking at.
That will be a rough estimate.
And are you saying that many of these questions are in this agreement?
A lot of the answers that you've asked about are covered in the tentative agreement. I think a lot of them are.
I did a quick search of our emails. I know Councilwoman Dawn Cameron Diner did as well. Unfortunately, we did not, from what we can see, receive the tentative, this agreement. All we did receive was an email from the clerk from, looks like April 15th, 2021, saying that this exhibit was provided to the clerk's office, but that's all we received was this exhibit A. So if you do have a copy of the agreement, can you forward it to the city clerk? Thank you.
And Chief Barber, I do have one question for you. So with the, and I don't know if it's going to come into a firefighter or your current secretary, are we keeping track of the calls as well?
I believe this is part of the agreement with, what we did is we assigned one of our firefighters, actually be one of our captains, as a liaison with one of the Twin City members to meet and discuss monthly, to discuss how many calls there were, the status of past calls, and address any documentation issues on our end that are maybe holding up billing. So we've tried to address that becomes part of somebody's regular weekly
Their
duties.
new duty? Okay.
And that would be like a weekly phone call, set up for either Monday or Friday, whichever works in their schedule, so that they don't fall too far behind. That gets them about 30 to 60 incidents, transport incidents in a week that they would be talking.
So we would designate one or two persons
We've already
as
done.
liaisons.
Just want to clarify the timeframe. I think it's like 10 transport incidents a week. Does that be the 500 a year, we have a week? So it's not nearly that many. Yeah.
So 10 a week is what you're,
If 520
Yeah,
transports ALS is the number, then 10 a week. something like
right,
that,
which
right?
makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
Can I ask a real obvious question? Anybody? I mean, the numbers that you provided, this sounds like it's gonna be a good partnership and how come everybody's not doing it? Why isn't everybody doing it?
Why? It's a great question. And the answer is because not everybody has paramedics. Paramedics are in extremely short supply, and it's not Western New York, it's not New York State, it's not the United States, it's global. Paramedics are in short supply, they're generally not available. You have invested in hiring, training, and retaining paramedics as members of your fire department. And while they're in a position to provide a service, they're not in a position to bill for that service because billing requires the transport. They're just not able to transport. Medicare, you'll see referenced in the absent but continually referred to tentative agreement that Chapter 10 of the Medicare manual establishes the opportunity to bill for joint services. And that when advanced life support transport is provided by two agencies coming together to do it, that we're allowed to and encouraged to negotiate to share the money for the transport. So the easiest answer why everybody's not doing it, they simply can't. They don't have the paramedics to do it. Council, Mayor, if I can speak freely, I know I've answered questions to this point, but a couple of things that I think might be helpful. So not only do you already have a substantial amount of sunk cost, you have sunk cost in firefighters that you trained, firefighters that you hired, the equipment that you purchased. All of that money's been spent. This care is being provided. The money, in a lot of cases, is simply staying on the table. We can't bill for advanced life support. We don't provide it unless there's a joint agreement. That doesn't get any additional benefit to the city. Right? But the money's sitting on the table that could be coming to the city of Tonawanda for work that's being done by your firefighters and paramedics. So that's money that's there for work already being done to reimburse some cost. The second thing is with that paramedic shortage and with just EMS providers, the burdens on the healthcare system right now. I think that what the fire department has sought to undertake here is something that not only is a tremendous service to your community, with which absolutely you are charged responsible, but it helps serve the larger community of Western New York, because paramedics who are now providing care to the patient are going to more frequently accompany the patient to the hospital, bringing other paramedics. In many cases, we're supplying a paramedic in addition to your paramedic. All our paramedic, skilled EMS provider is doing is driving that ambulance, because there's nothing else we can do. So now that paramedic is freed up to be able to provide service to other communities in the immediate area that don't have paramedical service in the fire departments. It's helping everybody. At really no additional cost and some small amount of money coming back. I'll provide that with just the caveat that I can't speak to your labor arrangement. I don't know about payroll costs, but in terms of the other investments, you are expending.
And you had said earlier that you have a similar agreement with the town. The
That's
town has paramedics on staff as well?
That's correct.
And you said that that agreement is unique. Now, what makes that agreement unique? And
Every
separate?
one of our agreements is unique, and it's based upon the relationship and how we establish it. The agreement that we have with the town of Tonawanda is unfortunately a little bit more complex in terms of the billing procedure, because rather than creating expected value and negotiating a rate that benefits everybody, we've gone through and basically said we will separate in each and every case the amounts paid based on what the insurance paid and what the differences in percentage. It's incredibly labor intensive from a billing perspective to go back and basically deconstruct the case to be which ones the emails have gotten. There was no advanced life support care. What did we get because there was advanced life support care? What amount was due? And then discount from that amount, the hours invested, billing costs associated with billing, costs associated with mailings. It's just a much more complex version of what you have here. The Medicare manual and the information available on joint billing really doesn't require that. That's the agreement that we entered into a long time ago, at a point in time when some of these things weren't quite as clear and there weren't as many opinions. And that was the end result. This is a little bit clearer, a little bit cleaner, a little bit faster. It is a shared risk arrangement. So in that case, the risk to us is the investment time that we take to collect and distribute the revenues generated. In this case, the risk to us is the lack of complete collection based on the kind of agreement. The second money is paid on the account. So we transport Mayor Davis, and his insurance sends us $50 and attributes all of the rest of it to Mayor Davis's co-insurance. We got the $50. We send you the money for the transport. All the risk in collecting that balance is ours. Right, so that's how the adjusted figures come to be in that shared risk arrangement. Understanding sometimes we're not going to get paid, right? Sometimes you're not going to get paid because it's going to go to collections. We're going to get small.
And how long have you had this agreement with the town?
Oh, I'm guessing 16 years.
16 years.
I'm guessing. In terms of the response arrangement, forever, like we had with the city of Tonawanda in terms of response arrangement, but in terms of reimbursement, 15, 16 years, something.
So I think some of the things that you've made very clear tonight, I want to thank you guys,
Yes.
is that this is advantageous to the residents. that it's, I think that's number one. It's advantageous to the residents. And you've made a lot of other things very clear, so thank you for coming. Chief.
Can I just add something real quick?
Sure.
I don't know where you are in the process of this or anything, but all I would ask is before any agreement is made, I heard something say about added responsibilities to dispatch. No, that was if they were in the EMD. That was it, when he was talking about tiered responses. I was just giving that as a clarification in order for them to do that. That would have to be, so that's not part of it, it's not, I'm just concerned about what burden we're putting on them. That is not part of it. There's nothing changing in this. Okay, thanks.
I think the picture is much clearer. And at least it is for me. So thank you. Thank you. Guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
Just the one thing I ask is this agreement, if we could just, see that. Okay,
I'll make sure that happens.
thank you so much. All right. Anything else? All right, let's take a few minutes before we come back.
Better cheer.
Madam President, at this time, I'll put everyone in the waiting
I
room.
swing my foot, it hit it.
You can't get it,
I can't.
or your foot.
My foot.
Ready?
Madam President, I have about a dozen people in the waiting room to be brought back into the meeting.
Okay, I'll wait.
Madam President, at this time, everyone from the waiting room has been brought back into the Zoom meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. If we can call the City of Tonawanda Council to order at 7:01. Can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Newman is excused. Cammerdiner,
Here,
Rautenstrau,
Here.
Mylum,
Here.
Cook.
Here, please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Prayer. Dear Lord of heaven, you're with us on this side of it too. By grace, by faith, humbly we come before you. I want to bring into remembrance 80 years ago, today, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Greater may we make, with your help, a greater good that supersedes this, as well as the countless travesties that occur way too often and currently on this side of heaven. Help us, O Lord, shine a greater good, personally and collectively, somehow, some way. And yes, another special prayer, an ongoing prayer of continued mercy and a good healing and restoration for Councilman and friend Tom Newman. Thank you, Lord, for his life and the good news of him improving, overcoming with your help the COVID virus and its effects. Thank you, good Lord, for this beloved community. In your name, I pray you guide, lead, and inspire tonight's gathering and meeting. We are grateful and motivated. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. So if Mr. Burke, William Burke can come forward, please. So back in January, the Buffalo Bills, I think were facing the Baltimore Ravens, right? And it was in the first round in the NFL playoffs. And during the third quarter, the Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson was injured. And William Burke, one of our city of Tonawanda residents, knew that he wanted to help. So him and another, a friend of his, they had researched one of Lamar's charitable organizations. And within one day, they received 1,500 donations. And those donations kept coming. And it was, the recipient was blessings in a backpack. And the donations kept coming and coming, totaling over $550,000. So today, the council, along with the mayor, want to recognize William Burke for all of his efforts. You know, City of Buffalo, City of Tonawanda, is a city of good neighbors. And William and his friend really led this charge. So thank you very much. So William, oh, just one second, Mayor. So William, on behalf of the council, here's a certificate of recognition for all of your efforts.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now turn it over to the mayor.
So, as Council President Cook stated, that this dates back to January. And the reason why Will and his friend Dan kind of picked blessings in a backpack is because Mr. Jackson went to school in more importantly, Louisville. And that is a charitable organization that he has come up with to help impoverished people in the Louisville, Kentucky area. So the fact that William is standing up here today is no surprise to me. He comes from good stock. His father and I used to have snowball wars when we were kids. I've known him since I was 4, and his mom I went to school with, and is a clerk in our office. And Bill's efforts not only shed a positive light on Bill's Mafia, but we're also honored to have him as a part of Tonawanda Warrior Nation. So with that being said, I have a proclamation here, and I'm not going to read all of it. I'm just going to kind of highlight a little bits and pieces in here. In November, William was honored and presented with the Stan Musial Award, where others like Wayne Gretzky were also honored. The City of Tonawanda and the Office of the Mayor are incredibly honored to acknowledge our own unsung hero, William Burke. May his compassion, generosity, and commitment to youth and charity be an example to all. Now therefore be it resolved that I, City of Tonawanda Mayor Rick Davis, do hereby proclaim today as William Burke Day.
Thank you. Yes.
Great job. Thank you so much. With that said, we'll move forward with our agenda. Thank you. We may have to invite the Burke family to more council meetings. Communications from the mayor have been ordered and filed. Communications from city officials and correspondence have also been ordered and filed. At this time, we'll now take comments by the public on the resolutions. For those that are joining us virtually, there is a spot for you to raise your hand. Please do so, and the clerk will call upon you. For those that are joining us in person, if you wish to address the council on the resolutions, please come forward. Mr. Clerk, is there anyone wishing to address the council virtually on the resolutions?
Madam President, at this time, I do not show anyone in the Zoom call that wants to make any comments on the resolutions.
Last call. Any comments on the resolutions? All right, hearing none, let's roll.
Resolution number 1 by Councilmember Camerediner.
We have a second,
I'll take it, Madam President.
second by Mr. Mylum.
Resolved that the common council minutes from November 16th, 2021 be accepted as file.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Camerediner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
Aye, declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 2 by Councilmember Rautenstrau.
I will second.
I'm sorry, Madam President, are you seconding?
Yes, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, thank you. Resolved that the award of the Young Street Corridor Improvement Change Order number 2 be made to Scott Lawn Yard, Inc. at a cost not to exceed $4,922. And amendment number 1 to D. Donato Associates at a cost not to exceed $1,050. Funding fiscal impact is a total of $5,972 from the Smart Growth account.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Camerediner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 3 by Councilmember Rautenstrau.
I'll second.
Whereas the title of this resolution ordinance has been published at least once in the newspaper of general circulation on November 6th, 2021, in accordance with section 2.047 of the city charter. And whereas the city of Tonawanda desires to add additional overnight parking spots in the West Seymour Street lot, now therefore be resolved that chapter 62 traffic and vehicles, article 5 traffic schedules, division 2 stopping, standing and parking, section 62-199, schedule 21, time limit parking in public lots, parking lots in the city of Tonawanda code shall be amended as follows as per your agenda. And also be it further resolved that all other sections of the said ordinance shall remain unchanged and in full force in effect. And be it further resolved that the above amendment shall take effect upon publication of its title in the official newspaper in the city of Tonawanda.
Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Camerediner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted. Mr. Clerk, I'm going to make a motion to waive reading of resolution number 4. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Madam President.
Second by Ms. Camerediner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 4 by the council, seconded by the council.
Comments or questions? Comment, I'd like to thank our city treasurer for his efforts for bringing this fund balance policy forward. So thank you for helping us get this implemented. Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Camerediner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted.
Resolution number 5 by Councilmember Rautenstrau.
Do we have a second?
I'll take it, Madam President.
second by Mr. Mylum.
Resolved that the recommendation of City Assessor David Morano that the mayor be authorized and directed to sign an agreement with Gar Associates LLC for the City of Tonawanda reassessment project update for a term from January 1st, 2022 through June of 2023. Fiscal impact is $115,000.
Comments or questions? No, we're not taking comments. You had an opportunity before, so now you'll have to wait for it. Please call the roll.
Cameron Danner,
Aye.
Rautenstrau,
Aye.
Mylum,
Aye.
Cook.
I declare the resolution adopted. At this time, we'll now take comments by the public following the resolutions. For those that are joining us virtually, there is a spot for you to raise your hand. Please do so, and the clerk will call upon you. For those that are in person, please approach the microphone. Mr. Clerk, I have a resident who'd like to make a comment. Just state your name and address.
My name is Frank Corbett, 276 Broad Street, City of Tonawanda. First, before I get to my comment, I would like to publicly congratulate the board councilman, Ron Shaw, for your win in the last election. I didn't want to send a little email. I want to make it very public. Public has spoken. Voting works. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Lead from the front, sir. You'll always lead from the front. I would like to comment with regards to the proposal for reassessment. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. I got many notes, but I shrunk it down to an envelope, so we'll try to keep it there. We just had a reassessment in the city of Tonawanda just several years ago. And that brings challenges with everything. And I understand in the balloon market, when the valuations of these properties are going up, it's very tempting to say, hey, let's raise the taxes. First off, what needs to be understood is an increase in property value is not an increase in income. It does not increase any taxpayer's individual ability to pay those taxes. As a matter of fact, in the last 30 months, we've garnered now, my last figure was around $500,000 in unpaid property taxes here in the city of Tonawanda, as people have found taxes more and more unaffordable here in the city, and yet somehow the blind eye is there. I'll give you a quick example: $150,000 house, 4% mortgage. By the time you're going to pay that mortgage, you pay over $250,000 for that house. And under the current assessed value, you're only $130,000 in taxes here just in the city of Tonawanda. That means after your 30 years, well, you're over $390,000 for the house, not counting insurance, maintenance, utilities, and repairs. I'll say again, increasement in value is not an increasement in income in any way, shape, or form. There's not extra money in the pockets. There's not extra money in the bank. There's not a bonus at the end of the year. Property values, when they go up, well, when you sell, capital gains takes their piece of that. Right now, we have a massive population here in the city of Tonawanda that's on fixed incomes. Our seniors who are now currently deciding between medicine and food, taxes, ready to sell their home, and pay their gains, and find somewhere else affordable to live. We're crushing them out. We have a significant disabled population here in the city of Tonawanda on SSD. They just got slammed with a massive increase in Medicare Part B, and there's no increase in their pay. We have our veterans that are here. We have single working moms and single working dads that are trying very hard to pay their taxes here in the city of Tonawanda. But as we can see from the figures on the board right now, that's almost 150 families, 150 houses in the city of Tonawanda that can't pay their taxes now in the last 30 months. And we're looking at reassessing it again to try to garner some sort of increase on this tax bill. We have a nearly 21% increase in the last 30 months. We did receive a tax cut for 4%. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate that. But we're still at 17% above. We're raising the tax cap every year. Now we're going to raise the assessment. We raise the assessment to full market value. Somebody that sold whose house is valued at $80,000, their neighbor sells it for $160,000. Their house gets reassessed at $160,000. We bring it up to full market value. That $4,200 tax bill a year goes to $8,400. Now, I don't know anybody in the city of Tonawanda, myself included, what neighborhood you live in, what house you live in, what sort of income you have, what sort of training you have. By the time this is all said and done in this assessment, this goes back to full market value. You are closing on over $800 a month just in taxes. I work 3 jobs. I pay my taxes. There's a lot of people that do. There's nobody in the city that I've ever heard of. I'm not going to pay my taxes because, well, we have great services. We have great people. We have great leaders. This is a vote against the people of the city of Tonawanda. We have so many rental properties in the city of Tonawanda. I own them. I kept the rents as low as I can and still be able to afford my taxes. If I was still a landlord, I would have to raise my rent to over $1,000 a month. We have just in the last 6 years seen our community become diverse. And now you're going to force the folks that have lived here to live in a safe society with great services and great schools and great people to not be able to afford their rent and push them out. Whether you see it as that or not, it is discrimination as well. We're discriminating against our elderly, we're discriminating against our single moms, we're discriminating against our diverse population that is calling the city of Tonawanda home. And if you vote in favor of this reassessment, your name is attached to this. I realize these are tough choices to make. Nobody wants to do this. I get it. I get it, but there's got to be another way. I'll close with this. I have a master's in business. I have a degree in accounting, as well as adult education, management, and yeah, I teach in all 50 states and British Columbia and Canada about property investment and maintaining fluid budgets so you can continue to be a homeowner. I invite the council themselves. My business here in the city of Tonawanda this Thursday at 6 p.m. I will conduct such a free session for anybody who wants to come. Today, 80 Clinton Street, Suite 105, at 6 p.m. this Thursday. It is free. Please practice social distancing and all of the regulations that are required. And you will have a chance, instead of you always being asked the questions, you can ask me. I am an expert, and I can help you through this without having to do this horrible act to the faithful and loving and joyful residents of the city of Tonawanda who are now facing yet another decision. Can I even afford to live here? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Anyone else wishing to address the public following the resolutions? Does anyone who's joining us virtually wish to address?
Madam President, at this time, I do not show anyone on the Zoom call that is going to make any comments at this time.
Thank you very much. This call. This is Cameron Diner.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Corbett, I thank you for standing up there and voicing your opinion. However, I come from a veteran family. My husband was injured. There's several here in the city of Tonawanda. We do have our seniors. We are looking out for them. I don't want to see anybody displaced from their home. That's the last thing that I want to see. However, as it was pointed out today, you know, I saw your video. I was a little taken back. Sitting up here is a huge, and you know, Mr. Narcera will find that out early in January. It is not easy for these decisions. So for us, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when the original assessment was done, it was done incorrectly. We have to make that tough decision to make it correct. Our commercial properties were undersized. And as you know, the state does not allow you to pick and choose which properties you can reassess, meaning the residential or the commercial, they have to be done together. That's my decision. Our commercial properties should pay their fair share. Our residential properties, you know what? Some of them need to step it up a little. And I'm not saying this, I'm going to get reassessed. And I know that going up. And I'm okay with paying my fair share. You know why? Because we have our fire, we have our police, we have our DPW that do a fantastic job in the city of Tonawanda. So for you to sit there and make comments the way you did, I'm appalled. That's all I have to say, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Camden, and Mr. Rounstrau.
Thank you. I did just want to start out by commenting that I went to the It's a Wonderful Life event this weekend, and I just wanted to congratulate everybody involved. It was a great event. It's great to be back to some normalcy again and have that kind of community event. I want to say, great job to the members of the Main Street Committee, to our DPW and our Parks and Rec. They're doing an amazing job. Just lighting up the trees in the park and made everything look great. I wanted to start with that, and I was going to end with that. I do want to thank Mr. Corbett for stepping up and talking with us. When I put this resolution on here today and asked to sponsor it, I do before every meeting post the minutes and post the what's going on with the agenda for each council meeting. And it stirred up some healthy conversation. I'm grateful people are talking about it and have the opportunity to discuss it. And I'm grateful for the rest of the council for considering it and doing what needed to be done. I think the onus was on us to do the right thing for our community to make sure we move forward. That being said, I do want to say it's important to remind the community, to remind everybody that a reassessment is not an increase in taxes. An increase in taxes is caused from an increase in the budget, an increase in the levy, and that's passed around to the residents. This is a very important part of the process. It's important to for our credit standing in our community, and to associate it with tax increases is irresponsible and it's dangerous for the community. Then it becomes something that's politicized. It's something that gets kicked down, a can that gets kicked down the road constantly, rather than taking responsibility for what needs to be done. I had many comments in there about why it's important, why it's needed. Even from the mere fact that veterans, star exemptions, people aren't realizing their full discount. So already they're paying too much. By equalizing the property rates, people are paying their fair amount. They're realizing the full discounts. And I discussed it with the rest of the council. I've discussed it with Mr. Marano, our assessor. One of the important things that I want to do as we move forward with this, I spoke with our council president as well, is to look at those exemptions. Those exemptions were at a time when property values weren't as much as they were. I think we need to look at those caps and make sure that they aren't capped out at a certain point, at an unrealistic point. Our veterans deserve to get a full exemption to realize their discounts. They've done a lot for our community. The star exemptions should be at the full amount. It shouldn't be based on houses when they weren't more than $50,000. It's definitely something we have to look at and bring it up to the times. We also discussed the limits the poverty levels on income, where you get those discounts as well. And I think this opens up the whole discussion to be able to do all of this as part of this project, and have it all go into effect in another two years. And that's an important thing to remember. We did an amazing job, this council, our mayor, of passing a budget that passed along a 4.75% decrease in taxes to our residents. And this wasn't a political election year situation. I can't reiterate this enough. This is something that's been worked on 3 years in increasing the commercial properties in our community. For 6 years, changing the way we do things, making more efficiencies in our system, and trying to do right by our citizens. That's one of the reasons why I did this 6 years ago and stepped up, because I was concerned about my tax dollars as well. I'm concerned about how much I'm paying, and I wanted to see that they're going towards the right thing. I do own a house in the city of Tonawanda. I believe all of us do. When we talk about raising taxes, when we talk about assessments, it affects all of us as well. So we don't take it lightly. I know my house is probably undervalued right now. It's probably underassessed. If a reassessment means that I'm paying my fair share, and a couple different people in a lower valued house can pay a little bit less, I think that's important. I think we need to take that into consideration. I guess that's really all I wanted to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ronstrom. Mr. Mylum.
I don't have anything tonight, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mylum. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to just pass along my thoughts to the Newman family. I know the news is somewhat good on Mr. Newman's recovery, and wish nothing but the best for his family and their recovery. And just as a reminder that in and around the city, there are numerous places for you to go get vaccinated or get your booster shot. So please take advantage of that opportunity. And last, I'd like to thank our police department, our fire department, DPW, electrical department, Parks and Rec, and Santa for all their efforts and the lighting of Clinton Park. I know Santa's very busy, and for him to take time out every year to visit with the kids of the city of Tonawanda is, I think, awesome. And in conjunction with that, it's a wonderful night committee. Jackie Smilnich, Kelly Utsick, Mandy Loft, Renee Gilbert, and my wonderful wife Megan put on a fantastic event on Main Street. I want to thank them for their efforts, the vendors, everybody for coming out. It's a little bit chilly, but seemed like everybody had a good time. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank Mr. Burke for his efforts and his drive. We are so fortunate to have him in the city fighting for causes that are very important to him. And just a note that the award ceremony that William was at will air on Christmas Day at 5 p.m. on CBS. So please check it out. Thank you again. I just want to add to Mr. Corbett's comments. During the previous reassessment, when we received the results from our then assessment company, I was sitting next to the previous clerk, and I remember turning to her and I said, the commercial, this doesn't look right. It didn't make sense to me that our commercial properties went down. I didn't believe it was fair. And at the time, I then discussed this with our assessment company and the assessor. I still don't believe it to be right. And there have been many conversations with our assessor on how we can make it right. And unfortunately, as Councilwoman Cameron mentioned, we can't just assess commercial properties. We have to assess all properties within the city. I am part of the group that live in a home where I was fortunate to purchase it at a great price. I will absolutely be one of the 30% that will potentially see an increase in their assessment. And I am okay with that, knowing the fact that I will pay my equal share. This has been going on for quite some time, every 4 to 5 years. We are at, that 4-year mark, but we will continue to monitor it and work with GAR, and we'll get it right this time around. But I do appreciate your comments. I'd like to give a shout out to our police department. They received the re-accreditation award. I know there'll be a ceremony at some point in the near future, but I wanted to thank Chief Strasburg, Detective Tom Harmon, Captain Jamin Butcher for all their hard work and efforts. And this was a remarkable achievement. So congratulations, Chief. Congratulations to the department. And thank you again for all you're doing. I had an opportunity to visit Councilman Tom Newman yesterday, who is currently hospitalized and not able to join us this evening. And we had a great visit. He was in good spirits. Unfortunately, he predicted that the Buffalo Bills were going to lose. And he was right. But we had an opportunity to just joke, and we had a nice conversation. He wanted me to thank the entire community for all their love, support, and prayers for him and his family. And he is certainly feeling all the love and the prayers. And that's what he needs at this time. his classmates actually came together and showed up at his house and surprised his family and put Christmas lights up. The community has certainly pulled together to drop off meals and donations. And that's what this community is about. I've received calls from Assemblyman William Conrad, just asking how he is doing. Other elected officials have reached out. And he is so appreciative of that. And he will be back with us very soon. He wanted to join us tonight, and I said, Tom, no, not tonight, just rest. But he wanted me to extend his sincere thanks and deep appreciation to each and every one of you for looking out for him and his family and for praying for him and his family. So get better, Tom. I know you're gonna watch this, so get better, and we miss you, and we will see you soon. With that said, I would like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Madam President.
Second by Mr. Rautenstrau. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Have a great night. Thank you, everybody.
Those on the Zoom call, we will be ending the call at this point. Thank you for taking the time to be on the call with us tonight. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Can we add the William Burke? Can we add the